there guys, thanks for joining me on another B.G.E summary for October 2017, and I'm Jason, I'll be your host. Alright, let's have a quick few announcements to make before we get to the games. First we have a competition running that I think it's got a few more days by the time this was uploaded, and you can win a fantastic prize, which is the Joan of Arc game from Mythic Battles. I mean, that looks fantastic, loads and loads of stuff in there already. So if you follow the B.G.E link down below, do the Facebook page, you can enter the competition and stand a chance to win. I think it's one of the basic pledges, which is really cool, loads of stuff. Also, if you so inclined to support the B.G.E, we have a Patreon page, which you can follow the link below, and that'll also give you the opportunity to win some of the games we reviewed this month, or last month, or any month. We give away a random game to one of our patrons, and as the patrons increases, give away more games. So come check out the Facebook page. On the Facebook page we have loads of cool stuff going on. I mean, other than the competitions, just discussions, and you can follow the links of all the video reviews and written reviews that the guys do, and including from other outside materials as well. So enough of that, let's get to the summary. So we'll start with Mark from B.G.E Reviews, as Mark is a prolific reviewer and has pumped out 11 games this month. I've had to write them down because I can't remember them all. So the ones he's done, he's finished off with the Stonewire Spotlight. His last game that he needed to do was Euphoria, and he really enjoyed that. That's obviously from Stonewire Games. And then he did a couple of smaller games called Ox the Game, AOX, I think that's from Half Wing Games, Zoomaker, Samurai Gardener, that's from Osprey Games, and By Order of the Queen, Dragon's Gate College. This is from NSKN. This was one of the bigger hits from Essen this past weekend, and I'm going to be having a look at that next. You also had a look at Cult Express. Now, Cult Express is not a new game, even though it's had a few expansions. This is my copy, so it's bursting with stuff already. But you can have a look at his review of Cult Express. I'm sure he'll do the expansions soon. I should probably get to that as well. And then he also did Klondike Rush. So this is a new game from Red Raven Games and Ryan Lockett. This looks really interesting. It didn't go to Kickstarter, it went straight to retail, and it's basically mining in the Klondike. So I'm looking forward to playing this. I have a really interesting idea. I think it's really interesting. And then he also had a look at Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. This is a meaty game. Big, long, 3-hour epic game. I'm definitely going to get this to the table at some point. I'll have to schedule a weekend maybe. And then he also had a look at Viral and Caverna. Caverna was his game of the month. Really enjoyed that a lot. And I'm sure, it's one of those games that I haven't actually played yet. I'm sure I'll really enjoy it as well once I get to that. Before we get to some of the other guys' stuff, let's have a look at what Lindsay did.
Hi everyone, it's Lindsay here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the games I've been playing and reviewing this past month. I'm going to start with A Dog's Life. So this was on Kickstarter back in August, I believe. It did really well. I think it was a really great Kickstarter, and I'm really pleased for them because it's a great game. I reviewed it on my blog and I did a full written review, and I kind of had to put myself in the position of if I was a younger player and the kind of games I used to play as a kid, and is this kind of game I'd want my daughter to play as a family game, because it is a family game and it is a very light game and probably not one I would have chosen to play, but I wanted to review it. I was very curious about it, but it was kind of like looking at it from a different perspective sort of thing. And overall I think it really succeeded in what it set out to do, because I think it is really good for children. It kind of introduces like pick up and deliver. It introduces just a little bit of resource management, but it's fun as well, and it's not overly complex. There's not a lot of text on the cards, so it's really good for younger players who possibly can't read or don't want to read large amounts. But I think it's kind of a good way to introduce kids to gaming, and also about being a dog, which is what the game's about. It's about being a dog about town, and like deciding like what lamppost you're going to pee on and where you're going to get your next food from and which way to go to avoid fighting another dog or avoid the dog catcher. So it's got a little bit of light strategy involved as well. Finally got round to reviewing Valeria Card Kingdoms. I discussed it on the podcast that I'm on, the 5 by. In summary, it's the kind of game that it is very simple to pick up and play. It's a little bit of faffy setup, but that's not too bad really, because you get so much payoff throughout the game. You're always gaining something. There's never a turn when you're thinking, oh, I don't know what to do now. There's always something to do, always something to gain. Even on other players' turns, you're still gaining something. Obviously you can strategize, but it's like you can just sit down and kind of chill out with it as well. So it's kind of good for someone like me who sometimes at the end of the day my brain power is limited, so it gets you still got to think, but without it like burning your brain too much. It's just a really fun one. Witches the Revolution was one that I bought at Gen Con. I've been really looking forward to playing it, and I did a review on my blog. And this is a deck building game, but it's a co-op deck builder, and you can play it solo as well. You're using your cards to recruit bigger, better cards, to overcome events that come out every turn, and to meet objective cards, and when you've met all the objectives you win the game. But if the events track reaches a certain point, then you lose. And there's also a tyranny track and a moon track as well, and they sort of modify cards' values. And the tyranny track, obviously the worse the tyranny gets, the harder the game gets for you, and as the events move along they get more and more difficult. So it's really one that you have to sit down and properly co-op with, or if you play on your own it's a tough one. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts, that's on my blog. Dawn of Peacemakers. This is coming at the end of November from Snowdale Design. It's a big game, it's a really big one. It's a campaign game, but you can play skirmishes as well, and it's in the same universe as Daily Merchants, but it is a war game. But you are fighting to keep the peace rather than make war. But this also means you might have to kill off a few animals in the process. You're animal people. It's a kind of evolving story game, so depends on the outcome of your scenario will lead you on to the next part of the story. So it's can be very different each time you play. Very different from Daily of Merchants, but it's still got the same really cute artwork as well, and the Kickstarter is going to include lots of like lovely miniatures rather than standees that I'm playing with at the moment. So I'm going to have a little bit more play of this one and pass it on to one of the other guys at B.G.E. So I did an interview with Zoe Lascaux, who is the designer of the game and founder of Snowdale Design, and I'm going to be putting that up a little bit closer to his Kickstarter launch. Look out on the B.G.E website for that in the coming weeks, and a review from me and maybe one of the other guys too. So yes, keep your eyes peeled. Last one I'm going to talk about isn't much to look at right now, but Sarah Singularity, another by Daily Magic Games. This is a Kickstarter that launched last week, and I did a 5-minute, but it's a card game, it's a time travelling card game. It's light, it's set collection, but it does require a lot of thinking, and it's a really fun theme. So please do go on my channel or on B.G.E page to find out a little bit more about it. It's got a few more weeks left. I'd really like to see it do well, because it's a really fantastic game. So that's me done for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thanks, Lizzie. That was awesome. Now let's have a look at what I did. So obviously I didn't do as many as I normally would like to, because I had all those PC problems at the beginning of the month, but I've been trying to catch up, and I've got a few games uploaded already. And the first one was Gondola from B.G.E Games. That's one of the games we gave away in the UK Facebook chat group, and that was really fun. And then we also had a look at Fruit Ninja from Lucky Duck Games. That was on Kickstarter. That was a Kickstarter preview, and I actually did quite a few Kickstarter previews for those last couple of weeks. I also did a Kickstarter preview for Heroes of History, a little head-to-head card game with all the history dynamics. And then we had a look at Champions of Midgard with all the expansions. So the Mountains and Valhalla, plus all the component upgrades, and that was ace. Really enjoyed it. I love Champions of Midgard. It's a great game, and you can go have a look at our game there. All my reviews have gameplay in as well, so you can see what the game flows like. And then another Kickstarter preview. This is Monster Slaughter. Very fun little lightweight game where you play monsters trying to murder humans in the cabin. Kind of like Cabin in the Woods, if you've seen that movie. It's really good. And then I also had a look at the head-to-head superhero dice building game, Kapow. That's really good. That's on Kickstarter now as well. I don't have links to them, to the Kickstarters below, but if you go on this channel that you're watching this video, you can see the videos, and then there's links in there for them. We also have Martin. Martin actually didn't get as many reviews done this month because he had some other stuff to do. He went to Essen, representing the B.G.E there, but also representing his own game, Robin Hood. He was demoing that at the Final Frontier stand, and he had got a opportunity to meet a lot of people, and maybe expand opportunities in the future for him. But he did look at a couple of games. One was For the Birds from Breaking Games, and also Sparkle Kitty. I think he'll be back to his prolific self when it comes back to next month. And of course, last but not least, is Mr. Nick Welford from Board Deck and Dice. Take it away.
Hello, I'm Hark Kelm. Welcome to a Board Deck and Dice update for the month of October. Can't believe October has gone already. We're almost in November, where I just run through the games I've looked at in hopefully less than 5 minutes. Let's get right on to it. Pilot Rush from Korean Board Games was a real surprise. It is a stacking game where it's 2-player or 2 teams. You have 10 identical blocks apart from the colour, so they're not identical, but identical shaped blocks. And what really makes this game is the clever use of the timer. So the timer here has black marks on it, and once it gets under a black mark, you're allowed to flip it over after you've put up to 3 in the first go, and then as many as you want, at least 1 in the second go. And it's this balance between putting blocks on to force the other players' jobs to be more difficult, and remembering to flip the timer, which can lose you points if you don't do it. Pilot Rush, I think, is a fantastic game from Korean Board Games and Sweet Lemon Publishing. Aox, I got to try, is a abstract game from the same company that did Package. That's Halfwing Games. Halfwing Games must be getting a reputation for good, small, portable abstract games with depth. This is a 2-player game this time, kind of chessy, onotamary, with just wooden components in a small package. It's highly portable, highly strategic. Recommend you check that one out. Harry Hopper is a game that Cosmos sent over, and that is very much a child-friendly game, perhaps too much of a toy rather than a game. Basically, you have 2 of these little jumping toys that you've seen that are in the shape of grasshoppers, I guess. Harry Hopper, there are clues in the name. And you're trying to knock over your coloured grass, which are wooden blocks. You can set it up as an assault course, there's various things to do, but yeah, it felt more like a toy. Having said that, my 7-year-old son absolutely loved it. And it's really quick to play and not that much of a pain to play with him, so I will play it. But yeah, is it a game? Who knows? Next, I looked at Viral. Viral for me is a fantastic game. Area controlled and in a clever way inside of the body. You're all viruses competing for control of different zones, and zones are made up by different organs. And to have control of a zone, you have to have a virus in every organ of that zone. And it just was a clever play on the normal area control strategy. And I just really liked it. Go check out the video, high recommendation from me. Viral. Gekaido was a hard one to review, a game that I love. What I was put off by was the price and the level of components after those wonderful miniatures that are full colour and really detailed. The punch board for the board, which is modular, was only one-sided, so what a missed trick. And to put 6 models in there when you only need 4 and then charge a premium, I just think was a massive misstep. I'd have rather seen this game come out with the 4 models and then these little minor expansions with the lovely figures in, and at a much more amenable price. Yet I do like the game. Then I looked at Outlaws. This is one that had been on Kickstarter, and I got to look at an early but a very high quality prototype. Unfortunately, it was after the campaign had finished, but this is a clever 2-player deduction game that just works really well. It's in a Wild West setting, but you're trying to campaign for governor, and there's various different ways to win, and yeah, it just worked really well as that kind of 2-player deduction game. Game of Things is a trivia game, well, not a trivia game actually, that's a total lie. It's a party game where the category card will say things you shouldn't do at your first day at work, and then everyone writes down what they shouldn't do at the first day of work. They all get given to one person, read out, and you have to guess whose answer is whose. Very simple, very fun. Yes, you could do it yourself, but what you're paying for in this type of games is that someone else has done the creative thinking of all these categories for you. A couple of criticisms. It was in a wooden box for absolutely no reason, which kind of quadrupled the size and the weight of it, and the price presumably. And also is that unless you're very careful with this sort of game, it always tends to come up with toilet humour. Or maybe that's just me. Colour Brain, however, is a trivia game based on colours. You'll turn over a card, it will say what colours are the Vaseline tub lids, and you've got 11 colour cards in your hand with names on as well if you're colourblind, and you play out the ones that you think they are, and then whoever's right scores points for everyone that's wrong. Very simple but very, very fun. Lastly, for the month of October, I reviewed Death Wish. I hate to finish on a bummer, but Death Wish. I commend them for trying to put gameplay mechanics into that kind of Cards Against Humanity style of game. It's a very mild one. The humour, some of it is a lot worse than others, but for the most part it's very kind of middling, plays on words, and it used this kind of Ethnos, Ticket to Ride system for choosing the things that you needed to do. But then the mechanics after that were just boring, and so I'm picking cards for something I don't really want to do, and I just was bored by it, and I find it was not as funny as I had, not really hoped it being. I read through the cards, and some, before I played, and some raised a smile, but it just wasn't for me. People who like this sort of game will know if they're going to like it or not just from watching my playthrough and review. So that's it for October for me. Looking forward to November, when I'll have my final Stonemaier game review. That's Euphoria and various other things. I've got Alien Artifacts and Whistle Stop, which I might hope to get around to as well. So we'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching. Jason? It's you now, mate. Yeah, really professional. Thanks, bud.
Okay, so that's all we have for you this week, or this month. It was another good month for games. Obviously, tons and tons of games have been released at Essen. Essen is obviously just post when I did this video, and there's a ton of content coming from us, from some of the games from Essen, and just some really cool stuff in the future. More announcements, more competitions. Just moving forward. Hopefully I'll get some more miniatures done, and we can use them in some of the content that's coming up. So have a look out for that. Look out for all the cool stuff we're doing. Come check us out on B.G.E's Facebook page. Come interact with us and chat with the people there. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.